Thank you and welcome to Conservative Roundtable. Today we have a very special guest, and I'm very glad he's able to call in from Bakersfield, California. He's a candidate for the 23rd Congressional District of California, Ken Mettler. Welcome, Ken, and tell me how it's going.
Well, very good, John. Well, thank you for having me on.
So if you could start first with, you could tell the audience here who you are. First of all, who is Ken Mettler?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm the fellow that's willing to take on the House Majority Leader, and that is because I live my life by principles. I'm a constitutionalist, and I believe in fiscal responsibility, free markets, and limited government, and equal opportunity for all. And I'm totally against the crony Washington establishment.
Wow, that sounds good, and that's really what the purpose of Conservative Roundtable is. We want to help conservative candidates throughout California. So, what are the issues right now in the nation, from your point of view?
Well, first of all, the Majority Leader, Kevin McCarthy, in my estimation, has no core principles. He led the vote for the $1.1 trillion omnibus spending bill. That funded Obamacare, executive amnesty, and Planned Parenthood. And it's time that type of activity stops.
Wow, that's pretty good. What are issues here in California that we should be concerned about?
Well, out here, of course, we need water and all of those things that are affecting our farmers, etc. And I think the Congress has given things lip service, but very little action, truly. I mean, for the fact that this incumbent congressman is a lifelong career politician, and yet has so little pull, even as Majority Leader, I think tells volumes that he supports the status quo.
He's not willing to take any risk, and he is basically the water boy for the establishment. And if we're going to get anything done, state level here, we need a change also at the national level.
I hear all the time, everybody says there's problems, and everybody knows what the problems are. But I think what the citizens need now is solutions. People willing to move forward with those solutions. So give us some solutions on how you see it.
Well, first of all, we have to live by the Constitution. That it all starts there. These politicians raise the right hand to support and defend the Constitution, but within 5 minutes of taking office, they begin to violate their oath of office. So it really flows from there. We do need term limits in Congress at some point. That would be a great goal to achieve. But more importantly, to be specific, we need people that are truly conservative. I mean, Kevin McCarthy says he's a fiscal conservative, yet the debt has increased $4 trillion under his leadership in Congress. The debt is now $160,000 for every American taxpayer, and this is unsustainable for our children and grandchildren who are going to inherit this mountain of debt.
Has been a problem. Back in 1994, I ran for Congress in the 20th district against Calvin Dooley, and we had a debate in Lemoore, and at that time we were only $4 trillion in debt. So I totally understand, and that was the issue. I was basically talking to him about that debt was not good enough. I felt that was horrible at that time. So
well, and it has, and this is with a majority of Republicans in the House and the Senate. So we do have a battle going on within the Republican Party. Conservatives need to persevere. Kevin McCarthy's voting record has been at the best moderate. However, in the last several years, it's declined even worse as he was mentored by John Boehner. He currently has an F by Conservative Review. He has a 53 with Heritage Action, which is very low, and a 57 by FreedomWorks. And this is and he comes from a conservative Republican district, and I think we can do much better. It's the core of the problem. The Republican Party needs to clean up its own ranks, needs to get rid of some of these rhinos, and the voters need to rise up now. This might be the year, and get some true conservatives in there. Day one, I would join the Freedom Caucus if I were to be elected.
When you're elected, let's be positive. When?
Well, that would be very good, yes.
Yeah, I think that the climate now is anything is possible. Usually it's very, very difficult to beat an incumbent. I tried with Calvin Dooley. I was sort of disappointed that he called himself a full-time farmer, but yet he was collecting a full-time pay in Congress. So I called him Double Dip Dooley. And yes. But ultimately he did win. But we kept chasing him, and finally he decided to put it up, and he decided not to run anymore. So that was very positive. Now,
well, it's always important that we give the voters a choice, and that's what this campaign is about. I want the voters to be able to have a voice. We do have an open primary in this state now. And it's very interesting with the Trump and Cruz phenomena, outsiders running for the presidency. It might give independent and conservative Democrats a choice. They can vote for any candidate they wish. They can vote for a Republican in the primary. And, I think I can attract a lot of those votes because we have a very large segment of our voters are declared independent or even American independent, and they don't understand sometimes that they can vote for Republican. And in this case, you would be voting for someone who will stand up to the status quo and against the establishment and be for good government and for clean, honest government. And that would be our candidacy, Ken Mettler. And I encourage folks to go to kenmettler.com.
Let me ask you, as far as endorsements, have you got very many endorsements yet? I know it's early in the process. Do you have any people supporting your candidacy?
Well, and I was formerly the president of the California Republican Assembly here in California. We were on our fiscal and social conservatives. I can certainly get the endorsements. My candidacy is just over 10 days old. So it will be a little more difficult locally because there's an intimidation factor when you have a sitting incumbent. A lot of the business people will feel a little constrained, But I would say this is purely a grassroots campaign. This is, I'm talking to working class people and small business owners, and who know that they're getting short-shifted in the current arrangements, and we really have a shrinking middle class, frankly.
Yeah, we are. Now, how do you do on taxes? Tell me about your tax plan.
Pardon me?
Tell me about your tax plan. What do you think about taxes?
Well, I absolutely favor, a flat tax or a fair tax. There's different proposals. I like those. Our current taxation system is anti-growth, and it's cumbersome and expensive, and it penalizes productivity. So I do favor a flat tax or a fair tax, one of those proposals.
Yeah, it's amazing how the Democrats, they have a way of moving money from different accounts. Like way back when, I was a committee to look at the state lottery here in California. And at that time, they said that the lottery was going to fund education. And I believe that money is being taken from that pot and going into the general fund or other special funds that they want to spend from. So our children are being cheated. And the other... Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I agree. I don't know the specifics, but, I served on the Kern High School board here for a term. Very large school district. I'm pretty knowledgeable about school financing, and the money never quite gets to where it really should get in the classroom.
Yeah. And the other is that taxes for gas taxes. To me, that's a big issue, huge issue. You have them now proposing our mileage. The more miles you drive, they want to tax you on miles you drive. It's amazing.
Yeah, that is incredibly hypocritical, and it's basically penalizing the same people they duped into buying energy efficient vehicles, so-called energy efficient. They're taxpayer subsidized, and yet now they want to get their pound of flesh based upon mileage. It's just outrageous, frankly. I mean, the gas tax that we pay right now is quite exorbitant, and I think a lot of it is just purely mismanagement of our funds. Our roads should be in much better shape than they are currently.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I believe, from what I understand, that's another fund that Democrats take from gas taxes, and they move it into the general fund. So you're right, that infrastructure, the roads, and all the other stuff should be fixed, but unfortunately, that money is being stolen.
Yes, and the inefficiency we've seen in California is outrageous. And of course, at the federal level, when we have a congressman that is, leading basically the House majority, and yet he, in the last spending bill, gave Obama $50 billion more than Obama even requested. How can we have a Republican Party with a leader who is so irresponsible with the people's money?
That's exactly right. It is being very irresponsible. And so let's talk about some of the conservative issues of the day, like gun owner rights. How do you feel about that?
Well, of course, I understand the Second Amendment. I understand the Constitution and all of its amendments. Second Amendment, of course, is sacrosanct. It protects all of our other rights, and it should not. In the original intent of our founding fathers is quite clear. It shall not be infringed. So, I am absolutely, supporter of the Second Amendment unequivocally.
Okay, Ken. Well, anyway, I think we're running out of time here. Do you have anything finally that you would like to say that would help advocate and promote your campaign? It looks like we're very supportive of you. I think that we definitely do need a change and new direction, new leadership. And I also, too, support term limits. So what can you tell our conservative roundtable final thoughts?
Well, final thoughts are in much more detail on my candidacy. I would encourage folks to go to www.kenmettler.com. That's KenMettler.com. And they can interact with me there. And I will do what I say. And absolutely, it's time for a change.
Thank you, Ken. We appreciate your time and your effort, and it takes a lot to run for office. So God bless, and I wish you well.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, y'all. It's me, Mariah. I feel compelled to open up this portion of my life to everyone. You know, a portion that not even my own family knows. Throughout my whole life, I've had serious suffers, had a good family, great life, just not good emotions, not good feelings, you know. Let me let you guys know on my third attempt of suicide. Yeah, not one, not two, but three. And my third attempt was my last attempt. My first attempt was my freshman year in high school, second was my sophomore year in high school, and third was my senior year. I'm going to let you know on my third attempt. So, my senior year was 2013, and I was probably diagnosed with bipolar 2 in 2012, and we were getting me stable, and that was like really, really, really hard. 2012 was probably like the hardest year because of that. But in 2013, it's like I still was depressed and feeling hurt, but was getting stable. It was, you know, the very beginning of 2013, and I just wasn't feeling well. I was feeling depressed, and I thought of a permanent solution to a not permanent problem. While my dad went to the store with my brother and my mom was at work, I decided that I was going to go into my kitchen, kind of in the laundry room, pick out a knife. I was going to take it to my room. And I was going to stab myself till I end up dead. Wasn't going to leave a note or anything. And, you know, I decided to watch video for the last time. So I went to my phone to jack up data even more. My parents always get mad at me whenever I use too much data. But I went to my phone and looked up YouTube. And what was suggested to me on YouTube, just at random, before I even searched anything up, suggested to me was a video of a politician who was speaking. I believe it was back in 2011 speech. But, yeah. So I decided to kind of poke around and look into it, because I was curious. I'm always curious. And I decided to look into it, and I read the comments before watching the video. The majority of the comments were saying how inspirational the video was, and there were some that were like trolls, you know, calling a politician a racist and the usual. But there was, you know, a lot of inspirational, you know, kind of like, oh, this is so inspirational. I decided that I was going to watch the video. I watched the video, and their politician he was speaking, and it was inspirational. He was speaking about his state and the issues at hand, but still, you know, it was very, very inspirational. And, you know, I watched the video.
At the end of the video, I decided to grab the knife, went back into the kitchen, found what the washroom was, and put the knife back in where it was hiding, so hiding spot. And I decided that I was just going to wait it out. And maybe I will get on the right medicine. Maybe I will get the right treatment and get things done. And I feel better in the end. Some way, somehow, I'm going to feel better. And that's kind of like, that's how it went. And to tell you the truth, politician speaking in the video, his name was Ted Cruz. Texas Senator Ted Cruz. And you know, it's just something how, you know, certain things happen that way. Just kind of interesting. And I always thank Ted Cruz for that. I always will. Because if it wasn't for him,
I wouldn't be here. And, you know, I had an aunt ask me, why is it you're so randomly obsessed with Ted Cruz, you know, back in 2013. Yeah, I said, just 'cause. But that's the reason why. I didn't want to tell anyone. 'Cause, you know, I didn't want to have to go back to the doctor and, you know, get checked out even more. But all things worked out. I'm on the right medicine, I'm doing the right things, and getting more involved in politics. And, you know, I thank him every day. Every single day. But, you know, yeah, that's a part of my life to share with y'all. And hope you have a wonderful day.
Welcome back to Conservative Roundtable. We have another special guest, Jesse Rojas with Pig Justice. Jesse, thank you and welcome to Conservative Roundtable. Tell us a little bit about Pig Justice.
Well, thank you, John, for inviting me to be on and discussing some very important topics, specifically that are affecting the Central Valley. You know, I grew up in Delano, California, and I grew up with agriculture and farming. And originally, I was actually born in Mexico, and my family came out here. We came here as legal immigrants, and they were offered a job working in agriculture. So I got to see at a young age the difference of living in a country like Mexico, where you're oppressed by the big government, you're oppressed by special interest groups, you're oppressed by unions. And then I began to see that it was almost the same thing when it comes to union oppression in California. So I took a big interest towards supporting farm workers specifically to get rid of the union oppression that occurs a lot in California. And one particular case that has stood out from the rest in California is the thousands of farm workers in the Fresno area at a company called Ground Farms. I believe a lot of people have heard about this. It's been going on for over 3 years. I believe it's now one of the biggest labor disputes. And the main reason for that is when you hear the word union, or in this case, the United Farm Workers, you think that is a good thing for farm workers. You believe that this union has been doing a lot of things to improve the conditions of farm workers, their pay. But in this company, they've always been paid the highest wages. I mean, they have the highest wages in the whole industry. They've always treated them very well. They've had the best working conditions. And yet this union, the UFW, came back to try to force themselves on the workers after they had abandoned them over 20 years. So that's what really got us to start the organization Pig Justice. Basically, we believe that as a worker, you should have the right to vote and decide if you want to be part of a union or not. And unfortunately, because of the California politics and the laws, it's really hard to choose to be part of a union or not. And for this particular set of farm workers, they voted. They voted at the end of 2013 in November. They voted under the law. The election was administered by a state agency called the Agricultural Labor Relations Board. But right after the vote was done, the ALRB grabbed all the ballot boxes and stored them in a safe. And up until now, they have refused to count their votes. It's been over 2 years, and they have refused to count their votes.
So what happened now? Are they counting those votes?
Well, it's been a long legal process. Like I said, unfortunately, the way the law in California is, they've been fighting for a long time through all the court system to get those votes counted. You know, this is the first time in the history since the ALRB was created that the ALRB, the state agency, you know, a government agency that's paid for by us, by taxpayers, has been adamant about suppressing these farm workers. And the majority of that is because a lot of the union officials, or in this case, the state agency officials, they are either friends or are somehow connected to the UFW. So in essence, you have a state agency that has so much power that is very well connected with the UFW politically. And so they're using this as a way to force contract so that they can empower the UFW to grow. Because now the UFW, they have less than 3,500 active members. The UFW is dying in money and in power and in membership. Once upon a time, when Cesar Chavez was around, this union had over 20,000 active members, but now that has changed a lot. So the ALRB, this state agency, has been helping the UFW so they can regain that power by forcing contracts with so-called the law that they've created.
Yeah, that sounds really corrupt. And, you know, you would think that some of the political officials, they would do something about that. They would do something about correcting the injustice that's going on. You know, every vote should count. And so, you know, this sounds like a really great thing you're doing, Jesse. Now, what can the normal citizen do, or La Raza, or Latinos, or whoever, what can they do to ensure that their vote is counted and that they do have, the process does work for them?
Well, you know, it's interesting. Regardless of the suffering of these thousands of farm workers, it has brought up a lot of precedents to the law and to the system. You know, in the last over 3 years, a lot of corruption, like you mentioned, has been exposed. There has been at least 2 high-ranking ALRB officials. One of them was Silas Shaver. He was a regional director in Visalia. And then one of the main attorneys, the general counsel, Sylvia Torres Guillen, they have now been fired because of a lot of obvious ties were exposed of them being friends with the UFW. Well, funny enough, in the government, they're not really fired like you would in a normal company. They're just transferred to a new agency or a new department. You know how this works in California. Yeah. But the bottom line is a lot of changes internally in the ALRB have been happening now because of everything we've been exposing. And one thing that a lot of farm workers across the state can keep in mind is that they have rights that they don't necessarily have to have the ALRB protect or so-called protect for them. There's other agencies across the state that would help them if there's anything going on wrong at their company in terms of working conditions, in terms of pay. But now what we're really waiting for is to see what the final board, the ALRB board in Sacramento, the way they're going to rule. We're going to see if they're going to rule to count the votes, or potentially they're going to say destroy the ballots. Anything could happen at this point. But we're really hoping that both Governor Brown and the ALRB board members will see that it's totally wrong what they're doing to these farm workers, to not allow them to choose. And you know, I have a lot of people on our Facebook page and on our YouTube page that they see a video, they see a post, and they immediately react by saying, well, if you're not a citizen or if you're illegal, your vote doesn't count. It's good to clarify that this type of voting or this type of election, it's not your usual statewide election or council election or supervisor, county supervisor. This is just an election that is administered in a particular company where only the employees at this company vote so that they can choose through a ballot if they want to be represented by a union or not. That's the American way. That's the American dream, in my opinion. Sure. And it's interesting that this being the highest paid workers, best working conditions, very good treatment from the ownership, and it's been happening since the beginning of the company, and yet the UFW and the ALRB state agency really want to force a contract. You know, there's a lot of companies out there, smaller companies, that probably need more help, that probably might need representation from the UFW, but the UFW is nowhere to be seen. And the reason is, since they are the highest paid workers, the amount of money they're going to get from their dues is going to be very high. And the UFW right now is desperate for money. They really need money in their budget. They've lost a lot of money. So it's important that people understand they have a lot of rights, regardless of their legal status, when it comes to choosing if they want a union or not. And it's important to understand what comes in the contract, all the bylaws, all the statutes that a lot of times they're not told, to get informed, and it's their right to request information about such union or about such contract. It's absolutely their right to look into this. But a lot of times, because of lack of language, lack of knowledge, just fear, they don't look into it, and they get caught up in a contract or a union that's ultimately going to hurt themselves and their families. So it's important that they look into this. But, you know, if this won't blow you away, I don't know what will. There was a report that came out of the Fresno just a couple of weeks ago, and it's been told that over 10 million taxpayer dollars have been spent by the ALRB in the fight against ground farm workers. You're talking about over 10 million taxpayer dollars, our money used to fight these farm workers so that they can be forced into a UFW contract. That is incredible, John.
That is really incredible. That sounds like another corruption.
Just another state agency with a lot of corruption. And, and it's amazing you mentioned legislators should do something about it. And I'll mention something very important for everyone that's watching. This notion that conservatives in this case versus liberals, that liberals are always for the poor, they're always for the hardworking people, they're always for the minorities, they're always for Hispanics, they're always for immigrants. But yet when it comes to an issue like this of helping farm workers that want to get rid of a union, every single member of the California Latino caucus, every legislator who has a Hispanic last name, and by the way, who's a Democrat and in the Capitol, has refused to help these Hispanic farm workers. And yet you have a white legislator like Assemblyman Jim Patterson or like Assemblywoman Shannon Grove, where I'm here in Bakersfield, that has done everything they could to help these Hispanic farm workers. So it's a big irony that the people that should be representing this farm worker are nowhere to be seen, but instead they're always getting money from the unions, and they're just simply in bed with all the unions and the special interest groups.
Yeah, Jesse, you're absolutely right. But I think it goes beyond that, too. It's not just in a focused situation. It also includes our water problem. In California, a lot of Latinos are affected because of the lack of water. It's a man-made drought. And what has happened is that all these Latino legislators throughout California could put the power behind getting this water issue solved. What do you think?
Well, I agree with you 100% that this is a man-made drought. The first thing that Governor Brown and his administration did as soon as we started getting more of a dry year was put up billboards across the freeway that were telling us as citizens and residents to save on water usage. The reality is, as you know, is California has always been in a drought every few years. That's just the way the environment works. That's just the way the weather works. But what do you do with the water you do get from the rainfall when there is years where you get a lot of rain? Well, we all know that millions and millions of gallons of fresh water from Northern California, they get thrown out to the ocean to try to save a 2-inch fish that we cannot even eat. The common, well, there is no common sense, but the thinking of the majority of the liberal legislators, they don't even know where food comes from. They think they just show up to the grocery store, and the grocery store magically makes the food in the back and then puts it in the front for people to buy. Most of these people, they've never stepped into a farm. They've never stepped to the fields. They've never seen a peach tree or a grape vineyard or anything. So their reasoning behind throwing all this fresh water into the ocean, it's ridiculous. And what's even worse is that us hardworking citizens and residents, we pay for their mistakes. We pay for higher water bills. We pay for absurd regulations of when you can water your garden or when you can wash your car or not, when there is plenty of supply of water from rainfall, but it's not given to grow the food that we eat. It's ridiculous that in California, being the powerhouse of agriculture and farming, we have this issue with water. But instead, they focus year-long on banning plastic bags, or they focus on giving free condoms to prisoners. I mean, it's ridiculous what you see happening in Sacramento every single year.
That's Jesse, you're absolutely right again. I'm with you 100%. Now, finally, on a wrap-up, what do you think, what would be the final thoughts that you have for our audience?
Well, I would just encourage everyone that's watching this, if you really want to look at everything that's happening with this corrupted state agency, the ALRB, if you truly want to support farm workers and their right to choose what's best for them and their families, if you truly want to stop seeing so much union corruption basically owning the Capitol in Sacramento and owning every single liberal legislator, I encourage everyone to visit our website at www.pickjustice.com. We also have a very active Facebook page. You just have to go to facebook.com/pickjustice. We have a very good YouTube channel where we're constantly releasing videos that have a lot of great information. We're constantly releasing videos that expose specific ties of corrupted state officials, and it's always important to keep up with what's going on and keep them accountable as well. Because at the end of the day, we send people to Sacramento because they work for us. Now they forget it, but it's up to us to remind them and to get involved and do something to take California back and make it the great state it once was. It's up to us to do something to fight for it.
Thank you, Jesse. I really do appreciate. It seems like you're one of the great leaders of the Valley and maybe the state or whatever. So I do appreciate your time. Have a great day, and thank you, Jesse.
Thank you as well, and good luck with everything, and continue with your show. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Amendment 1. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Amendment 2. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Amendment 3. No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house, without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. Amendment 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched, and the persons or things to be seized. Amendment 5. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime, unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces, or in the militia, when in active service in time of war or danger.
Nor shall a person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation.
Amendment 6. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. Amendment 7. In suits at common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. Amendment 8. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. Amendment 9. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Amendment 10. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people.
And this evening we have Clint Olivier visiting with us. He is currently the City Council member for District 7, and he is running for the 31st District of the Assembly. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Why are you running? Who are you?
Well, thanks for having me on, Marianne. I
course.
really appreciate it. And congratulations on the show.
Thank you.
I like what I've seen so far, so keep it up. I have been on the Fresno City Council for the past 5+ years. I represent an area that is around Manchester Center, McLean High School, Roosevelt High School, so I go out into the southeast as well as central Fresno. And we have a lot of problems in that part of town. You know, there's only so much that you can do when you're with the city. You know, you can do curb, gutter, sidewalk,
Right.
Street sweeping, law enforcement, fire protection. But the problems that my neighbors are facing are really too big for us to tackle at the city level. When you're talking about the lack of water in the valley, when you're talking about unemployment that is twice the state average. The 31st Assembly District that I'm running for is the second poorest in the state. And if you include the rotten air quality here, we're looking at the worst Assembly District in the state of California.
Right.
And so I'm running so that I can represent my neighbors and that I can work on a larger scale to address the problems that are affecting our families.
Very good. Now, in reference to the particular district of 31, my understanding that the percentage of Republicans is approximately 28.7% versus the Democrat opponent, which is 48.25. So in terms of that, what will be your strategy in order to speak with the Democratic Party or individuals, so to speak, to perhaps change their mind?
No, absolutely. You know what? This is a special place. The Valley is a special
Yes.
place, and this area of the 31st Assembly is special too. So it's South Fresno, basically everything south of Shields for the most part. Kerman, Mendota, Firebaugh on the
Right.
west side, Coalinga, and then Parlier, Fowler, Selma, and Kingsburg to the
Right.
south, and then on the east side, Sanger, Orange Cove, and Del Rey. And so people say, well, Clint, look at the registration, it's a Democrat seat.
Right.
But it's really not. I mean, if you look at Senator Andy Vidak, his numbers are similar, if not exactly the same. Congressman David Valadeo, his numbers are similar, if not exactly the same. Senator Anthony Cannella, who represents part of that district as well.
No.
So you're looking at a group of people who don't vote the party, they vote the candidate. That's why the Democrats are so worried, the Sacramento
Right.
establishment that don't care about us here in the Central Valley. That's why they're so concerned about me in this race, is
right.
because people who live around here will vote the candidate, not the party. And so when you look at the numbers, Andy Vidak outperformed Republican registration. So did David Valadeo. Anthony Cannella outperformed his Republican registration by like 30 points.
Right.
So I love my neighbors. I'm excited about representing them in Sacramento. Democrat, Republican, Independent, folks who are excited about the process, and folks
Yes.
who are jaded as well. I'm really looking forward to getting in there.
Well, I'll have to say, I don't remember experiencing such an exciting local political arena at this point in time, and national. But getting back to your position running for 31, your main opponent is Dr. Joaquin Arambula. Now, what is it that you two agree upon, and what is it that you two are opposed?
Well, I think that Dr. Arambula seems to be a nice person. He's a family person. I don't really know what we agree on. I think that he's interested in doing some economic development, and I am as well. But there are more differences than similarities. And number one is experience. You know, I have been tested. I have been on the Fresno City Council for 5+ years, and it's been a tough assignment, and it is for everyone who gets on there, because you're dealing with a $1 billion budget. You're making very important decisions.
Of course.
I have been lampooned. I have been cartooned. I have been attacked in the paper. I have had letters written about me.
Yes.
Right, but it's easy to throw rocks at someone when you're the newcomer and your opponent has a record. So, I think that there are more differences. I think that Dr. Rambill is way too liberal for the district. He's advocating $15 minimum wage. He's advocating single-payer health care. And I don't know of any reason why any conservative would ever consider supporting
and
someone
why
like
would
that.
you think that he would support something like that?
Because he said it on the radio.
But there was no backup as far as the reasoning behind it.
Well, no, I mean, look at the difference. If you wanted to talk about another difference, I don't have to do what the Speaker of the California State Assembly tells me to do.
Right.
I can be independent in that seat. I think that someone in the 31st needs an independent representative up in Sacramento, not somebody who is at the beck and call of the Speaker of the Assembly.
Right.
And this is the whole deal, Marianne. People in Sacramento, people in the Bay Area, people in Los Angeles don't care about us here in the Central Valley. And so whoever goes up there has got to be a strong and vociferous advocate for.
And I agree with you on that in reference to I was born in Southern California, raised in Northern California, very close with several legislators in the San Francisco area. So I understand where they're coming from, and I'll have to agree with you that the Central Valley really isn't on the map of California in their mind. And what's interesting is that they haven't taken the time or made the effort to spend time here to speak with the people as far as what the issues are. And you and I both know, and everyone here in the room on the roundtable, this is an agricultural area.
Yes. Whether you like it or not, it is.
This is the breadbasket. We are one of the top agricultural areas of the world. And with that being said, water is huge. So share with me your thoughts as far as two things. Storage of water, which has been an issue for decades. And that was my main issue when I moved here, and I was, speaking with a congressperson. I said, I don't understand this. I'm here from the Bay Area. I come out here. What's going on with the water? What's the situation with the storage? So I would like to hear your thoughts on that, and I'd also like to hear your thoughts about the Temperance Flat.
Well, I think that kind of going back to what you were saying, I know of a grower in our community, and it's Joe Del Bosque.
Yeah.
And Joe does tours.
And he's a friend of mine.
He's fantastic. Yeah. And you know what? His place is out on the west side.
Yes.
He grows a variety of crops, and his farm has become a stop on the circuit for people, politicians looking to be elected to different office.
And the main reason is because President Obama was out there a couple of years ago on Valentine's Day.
Right.
So, yes.
I made my pilgrimage. Gavin Newsom's been out there.
Yes.
Some of the others have been out there. But he'll do tours for state lawmakers.
Right.
And he has had folks come to his farm and say, wow, I've never been to a farm before. What is that? Or how does that work?
And that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Right. But it doesn't answer your question, so I'll answer your question.
Okay, so we're talking storage and we're talking Temperance Flat, because these are two main issues that are near and dear to my heart, near and dear to the hearts of my legislative friends and colleagues. So I would like to hear what you have to say as far as a plan.
I think that...
a vision and a plan, that's what I like to hear.
Well, I think that a good start, a lot of folks are beginning to sign the new petition. Secretary of State has just approved the language, and the petitions have been prepared and are being signed right now. What this would do is it would take $8 billion from high-speed rail and move that over into for water storage.
And that's been a big issue, because for so long, as many of the viewers may or may not know, the main allocation of funding was the issue. That there was an allocation of funding for the water situation, allocation of funding for high-speed rail. So, high-speed rail has a high price tag.
Yes, it does.
So, and I understand that, and myself being from the Bay Area, I recognize it's not easy to get here. It would be great to have some form of transportation that would be quicker and more efficient, and I understand that. I'm concerned about the price tag, obviously, and several people that I'm close to that do work in politics support it, and I understand that. But, you know, there's so many different threads and facets about it. The cost.
No, and it's not funded. There's no money for it. But I think that this, you know, you asked me about water storage, you asked me about timber supply. I think, you know, we can talk about.
So they were able to, you know, reallocate the
That's what they're trying to do.
Yes.
And we'll see. What it would do is it would make
they're in the process of it.
Exactly. It would change, if adopted by voters, it would change the state constitution to move that money over from high-speed rail to allocate it for water storage. Would also change the state constitution to prioritize agricultural and urban uses for water ahead of environmental uses for water. So I think it would be great to see on the ballot and let the people have a chance to vote on it.
Right.
And the reason why I'm answering your question by saying that I do support this this petition, I'm signing it,
process of,
is because I think that this is the next debate that we're going to hear. And you're going to see Democrats signing on to support this. You know, Gavin Newsom, the lieutenant governor, is opposed to high-speed rail. You're going to see Republicans, of course, supporting it. Folks from the ag community, because this is a great way to assert ourselves here in the Central Valley, and also get buy-in from folks in LA. Obviously, people want you know, to have the urban water use prioritized down there, and so I think that this is going to be part of the next debate as folks come on here and signatures are gathered and it gets actually on the ballot. You're going to hear a lot more about it.
So, what would be your plan for storage? What would be your strategy as far as this is what we need to do?
Well, I think that Henry T. Perea, he's the assembly member that was in office right before me.
Yes.
And
this is why it's a special election.
Right, because I think that Henry T. did an excellent job of getting us to the point where we're at right now, which is
the water bond, that language was written, the water bond was passed, and now that Henry T. is gone, the next assembly member is going to have to work with the people in the state assembly to educate them and make sure that water is prioritized. Now, of that water bond, it's $2.7 billion that are for temperance flat. That money is for water storage.
Okay, good.
And so it's just a question of working with others in Sacramento, working with the administration to make sure that that is the ultimate result. Of course, there will be lawsuits and environmental groups who will take issue with the construction of something like that.
Right, especially in the Bay Area.
But I think I think I'm ready to work with Democrats and other Republicans to make sure that that gets done.
And it really is a bipartisan situation.
Absolutely.
It's water. I mean,
absolutely.
If one was not does not have the political acumen or understand, it makes sense to understand we all need to share our water. So, with that being said, we're going to wrap this up. Okay. And say 2 seconds.
Yes.
3 seconds.
Yes.
Why will we vote for you?
Vote for me because I have the experience to get the job done, and I'm not afraid to be a very loud advocate for my neighbors.
Very good. Thank you so much, Clint. We appreciate you being on the show.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
I mean, hey.
I understand that when the mainstream media covers immigration, it doesn't often see it as an economic issue. But I can tell you it is a very personal economic issue. And I will say the politics of it would be very, very different if a bunch of lawyers or bankers were crossing the Rio Grande. Or if a bunch of people with journalism degrees were coming over and driving down the wages in the press. Then we would see stories about the economic calamity that is befalling our nation. If I'm elected president, we will triple the Border Patrol. We will build a wall that works. We will secure the border. I'm telling you.